Hello, and welcome to the AppleInsider Podcast. I am your host, Wes Hilliard, and I'm joined once again by William Gallagher. And see, I know how to do an intro. I did it just fine this time. Let's move on. I'd like to thank our sponsor, ZocDoc. And, as you're listening, we're just anxiously waiting for a FedEx truck or whatever William has to pull up to the front door and deliver our goodies. And yes, that does mean William might have actually ordered some goodies as well. We'll be discussing it in Apple Insider Plus this week. What did we order? And maybe how do we recommend the products this time around? If someone says, hey, what am I buying out of Apple's fancy new lineup? What are we going to do? But, William, what about you? Are you going to reveal your secrets? What did you order?
Oh, let's hang on to some drama. But actually, just what you said right there. This year, more than ever, I'm finding it really hard when people ask me what to get and whether not to get things. For some reason, this year it feels like a really fine balance. Maybe when Apple Intelligence is fully out, it'll be much more obvious. But right now, I have more questions than I do answers. Yes, but I did order something. And unfortunately, it's coming via DHL. Sorry, DHL, but I've had a bad time with them. I have watched the truck drive by and then seen somehow they teleported one of those notes saying, we missed you while you were there. I watched it drive up and drive away, and they still didn't do it. Yeah, I'm not going to say I ran after it, but, I did. So
I have actually gotten in a car and drove through my neighborhood to catch a FedEx truck before. So,
right. Wow, did they give
and it
you
was worth it. It was worth it because I'd got my package. So there you go.
Yeah, but then did you have proof of ID and things? Or did they just think, strange man pursuing us, give him what he likes, take it to the back of the truck, it's fine?
To be fair, I did call dispatch and say, tell your truck guy I am coming. And they were like, that is totally fine. Yeah.
Oh, but did the driver step on it to try to get away? Was it a car chase?
Right, chase him down and this 4-mile-per-hour giant truck going.
Yeah, okay.
Like a Zamboni chase or something. Okay.
I'm embarrassed to admit this, but it's true, so why not? I have just read 64 Knight Rider scripts, and I promise you, as I drive along the road, I am suspicious of every car that comes near me. And you don't even know what Knight Rider is, so I can pretend that it was a searing political drama.
Just because it came out before I was born doesn't mean I don't know what Knight Rider is.
Right. Well, the rest of this podcast is Wes on his own as I go sobbing. Anyway, I might be seeing car chases where there aren't any. Let's be fair. Yes.
So everyone knows I ordered the iPhone and Apple Watch, of course. I didn't find any reason to get any AirPods. Finding less and less reasons because Apple doesn't offer an official USB-C to headphone jack adapter, and there's still no word of whether the new pair with USB-C works with standard third-party connectors or if we're going to need a special Apple one. So I recorded my podcast with AirPods Max on my head over that little $35 connector. Sure, I'm good. I don't need AirPods Max, but I did want to say pre-orders seem to go pretty well. I clicked 2 buttons. I was wrong. It wasn't 3 buttons. It was actually 2 buttons, and I had an iPhone in hand for delivery day. I had already ordered my Apple Watch the week before, and iOS and everything launched the other day. I wanted to tell you, I was updating all of our devices, going through the house, telling my neighbors, hey, go update your phone, and I go to my fiance's Apple Watch and realize it was an Apple Watch SE from 2020. It could not update to WatchOS 11. So what do? I immediately go and order an Apple Watch Series 10.
Excellent.
On
you're a keeper. You are. Okay.
on Tuesday, right? And it's still arriving tomorrow.
Right.
Or it's still arriving Friday, day of release. So, but it was the smaller model and the standard silver or color aluminum. So I'm not sure if that helps anything or what, but I did find it funny that we just could get a delivery day. Brand new Apple Watch.
I actually offered to buy my wife Angela the smaller of the new ones because she prefers the smaller ones, but she says she's very happy with the Series 7. She doesn't want a bigger screen, so I saved some cash there.
I let people say that until the device can't update to the newest operating system. That has to be the cutoff because, come on. I mean, I understand that the features aren't that important, especially on Apple Watch, but still, I don't want you running last year's OS, and then at this point, you would start running into compatibility issues with certain apps, or different notifications wouldn't come through. Like, you're going to run into problems, so might as well just go ahead and upgrade.
No, you just don't want to be seen out with somebody with an old Apple Watch. That's what it is. Yeah.
Oh no!
God, imagine walking up the aisle and she's on watchOS 10. Oh, it's so passé. Okay.
Yeah, the checkout clerk's going to judge me so hard when they see that it's the wrong operating system.
Well, I do notice, actually, just anecdotally, it's stunning how many people around here in the Midlands of the UK have Apple Watches, but the giant majority of them must be Series 4 or earlier, because you hardly ever see an always-on face. So I do notice these details.
Yeah, the jumping from an SE to a Series 10 is like jumping 6 generations. I'm excited for her. I did want to point out something I saw going around the internet. It's kind of odd. We're net negative watch faces this time around. Apple took away 3 watch faces and added only 2 this generation.
I didn't know that. Do you know which ones we've lost? Please don't say Snoopy.
The Siri watch face, the utility original, not the like big one. Gosh, I might even be seeing the wrong name. And there was a third one that went missing, whose name is escaping me.
Clearly you're distraught at the loss then, if you can't remember the names. But
I just, come on, Apple, third party, something. It's odd to me that, and someone made the comment, I wish I'd saved this, but it was, clearly 2 Apple Watch faces a year is pushing Apple thin. They're running out of money to develop these. Whatever shall we do? Because I agree. Why is it so rare to get a new watch face? I mean, at least on iPhone, you can just change your wallpaper, or now do so many other customization options. But what's going on with these watch faces?
Yeah, but remember, some years there's absolutely no difference with the watch at all. They just up the number. So they've got to have something to say. Right. And that's an easy way. I actually think designing watch faces is incredibly hard, and I can well imagine that if they just opened the doors and let anybody do it, there would be some really ugly faces on there.
Absolutely.
But it would be nice.
And there's some really ugly iPhone home screens now with the new configuration options that you can do, but to each their own. Everyone can have it as ugly an iPhone as they want. Let us have ugly Apple Watches. Apple, don't be afraid. We did see the Pro Max sell out fairly quickly in almost every range. That might also just be because it's harder to make or scarcity. But the various models sold out. Apple Watch did see some models sell out. I couldn't order my preferred band. I wanted to get like one of the new fancy bands, and it pushed it out to mid-October. So I switched back to a sport band because I wanted my watch on release day.
I actually hadn't realised until this year that you can't buy an Apple Watch without some band. I mean, I don't particularly collect them, but I've got 3 or 4 that I like.
I'm happy to order it with a sport band because then I have a band to give away with my old watch. So that at least that's an option. And I realized mid-checkout that because I wanted the new Link band that Apple's selling, that's $400.
Oh, yes.
It's not black anymore. It's now slate, and I am very disappointed, so I will not be buying that. Nomad makes an excellent titanium Link bracelet that is perfectly black that I think I will be ordering at the next convenient moment.
But speaking of colours, I hadn't noticed that the watch was selling out. I was watching the phones, and I noticed how quickly, as ever, the Pro Max is the first one to go. But the last of the Pro Maxes to go was the natural titanium colour. So last year's big one, it's like, whatever, so passé. And I didn't notice all the other 3 colours seemed to go more or less at the same time, but natural took the longest. And I was so keen to get natural last year. It seems sad how tastes move on.
I'm excited to see how different this new Apple Watch is going to be. The larger display, thinner case, but also for me, 20% lighter. For anyone who bought aluminum, 10% lighter. 20% is a significant difference because I'm moving from stainless steel to titanium. this thing's going to basically not exist on my wrist. I'm really excited for this new Apple Watch.
When Stephen Roberts was running this very podcast, we would often talk about the materials on an Apple Watch because I could not cope with the fact that he had to buy stainless steel and he couldn't ever buy the aluminum one because he hammered that watch against doors and desks and all sorts of things, and I haven't got a single pixel of a scratch on mine. So I go for the aluminium one, mostly on account of why would I want anything else? It's the cheapest, it's perfectly hard wearing enough. Yeah.
I don't know why, but something about the higher end always catches my eye. I want that different material. I think it might be the glass, the sapphire coating or cover, because that gives you more impact protection. And I'm not like Steven, I'm not just casually jamming my wrist into doorways, but I definitely can note the years that I've had aluminum watches, I end up with nicks and cuts in the display and the paint on the aluminum. But this year, with no real difference in how I live my life, my stainless steel Apple Watch is basically in perfect condition. There is not a single nick anywhere on the surface or on the display. So there's got to be something to it.
I had an original series, well, as we call them, series 0 watches, as we say now. And at one point, I was away on holiday, and I turned my wrist to read the time, turned the wrist back, and the whole display just fell off. That is the only damage I've ever had. I went from there, Apple replaced it with the Series 1 eventually, and I went from there to a 4, from a 4 to a 7. So I've seen big cuts, but I've not had any other damage at all.
There's not much else to say about the Apple Watches, is there? I mean, I guess we might as well cover it here. The sleep apnea detection is going to be interesting. I have a feeling I'm going to get some kind of detection there. I've never been diagnosed, but come on, my sinuses. I know life. I know how I live. There's probably something there that's going to pop up and be like, you should probably get checked out. It's like, yeah, thanks, guys. I knew that.
I am wondering about when that will come to 150 plus countries. Because I know Apple now has the FDA approval that they must have so wanted before the event so they could say it and then didn't quite manage it. But I don't know. I don't even know who approves these things in 149.
There's laws in other countries preventing Apple from just releasing medical grade hardware to the public and just telling them diagnosis.
But I genuinely don't know which end of the UK government should be doing it, or at the moment has the time to do it. So
perhaps the EU needs to write a bill to make sure Apple allows Android to detect sleep apnea as well on iPhone. I'm joking. So the Apple Watch Series 10, bigger, brighter display, wider viewing angles, the ticking second hand because of the renewed refresh rate for the always-on display. Just a bunch of fun little things. I don't know what it is. I've seen a lot of people saying this was kind of a boring release across iPhone, Apple Watch, and everything. I don't feel that. I think every year it's just a new range of commentators in the Apple space just gets more jaded and says everything is now boring. But you compare this to any other year, and honestly, this is great. If you want to look back at the smallest change ever in an Apple Watch, look at the Series 7. Was basically a non-existent upgrade year from the 6 to the 7. I think they tweaked.
That's the one I bought. Okay, I was suckered.
They tweaked the display size ever so slightly, but I'm pretty sure almost nothing else changed unless you're someone who menstruates and you got that new detection correct. But literally nothing else changed in the Series 7, and I still bought it because I buy an Apple Watch every year, but looking at this, it's just like the display is bigger and brighter, the case is thinner. Like, this is as close to a redesign as we're going to get in the next 5 years or so. I mean, at some point, Apple's going to have to change the case and the bands in order to do something different. But I'm really happy this year. I think this is honestly a better upgrade than the Series 9.
Right. I think Apple will stick with these bands for a long time because it's an incredibly clever band system. I remember being so impressed right back at the start with one of those things of Apple does it and you think, yeah, that's how it should always have been done.
I'd like to bring up a point. Just because people are used to change, like having to get a new iPhone case every year or magnets shifting in the iPad Pro. Looking at the watch industry, I mean, we kind of figured those out a long time ago. Do we need to necessarily reinvent how bands work every few years, especially that we've got such a clever design now? I mean, the clasp on a metal link band was invented, I don't even know, I'm not even going to pretend to know, a long time ago, and it still works the same way. Does Apple need to reinvent how the bands are connected to its watch, or did it just get it in one, and it's just going to stick with that for perpetuity?
The presumption was always that Apple would have to change it when the watch got bigger, but the watches got bigger, and they didn't have to change it. So, no, I'm a fan. I'm saying stick with it. I
rewatched the keynote, and they said the Apple Watch Series 10 display is bigger than the Ultra, and they overlaid the two. If it is bigger, it's by a pixel. It's a hair bigger, but it is still impressive that it's bigger.
It is, but I got so confused by that because I quite fancied the Ultra because of the size. So I thought, oh, this sounds good. And I looked at the measurements, and you look at the physical measurements that Apple publishes, and the Series 10 is smaller than the Ultra. So how is the screen bigger? And I look at that, but I couldn't see a difference either. I'm just happy it's big. So,
if I remember right, the Ultra is 49 millimeter case size versus the Apple Watch being 46 now. The case size on the Ultra is huge. It has all that overlapping junk on the edges. That's where that comes from. And then the display is a different measurement. The display is within the case.
Yeah. The bezels on the Ultra.
Yeah, chunky. Yeah. It's the display that's bigger, and that's the most important part. I honestly, if it was all display, that would make the most sense. We're getting there. It's ever so slightly shrinking over the edges every year. So at some point, it's going to eat into the digital crown space, and we're going to have to change that too. But
okay.
I think
I'd like the digital crown. I read a patent, actually several patents over the years, where the rotating crown was changed to a capacitive thing or something, and it just, it didn't sound the same. Digital crown is like the way watches used to be in the olden days. So I'm a nostalgic
give you that haptic
fan.
feedback with
your
liquid
watch can
metal.
lie to you, but yes. I don't know why I think this, and I'm sure if I were to buy a watch and it was like this, I would be fine with it. But I like that it works so well straight away. I think it's clever and it's nice. So I'm unconvincing myself as I speak. Please rescue me. Okay.
So let's look at the. We got reviews coming in from pre-release Apple products that went to different publishers or YouTube commenters. I've watched MKBHD and iJustine and iPhone Do. It's Taekwondo. See, I do this every time. It's iPhone Do, I think. But anyway,
I don't know that one. Okay.
Yeah, he's excellent. His videography is awesome. But yes, so these are all pretty fun. Austin Mann came out with his camera update. So let's just go down the line a little bit. AirPods 4, everyone's impressed. Everyone who ever thought about getting AirPods Pro for the noise cancellation but couldn't stand the rubber tips are now buying these in droves. I'm sure we're going to see these stubby little guys everywhere going forward. Not much to say there. Excellent. It works. It's not as good as AirPods Pro, obviously, but the noise cancellation and transparency modes do work without ear tips.
I really, really miss my AirPods Pro because I have this fault on one of them that can't be fixed. But I actually, and this has meant I have considered buying the new AirPods. So I've gone down the route of AirPods 4 with noise cancellation versus AirPods Pro 2. And I think Apple's very clever in how they space these apart by £50 or $50 so that it's not unreachable to get to the next one, but it's still quite a chunk of change. I
highly recommend AirPods Pro 2.
Right, but I had an epiphany which saves me money. Can I show you that? I found my original AirPods from way back in the day, and they're actually on my desk now, and they're tiny and cute, and they don't have any noise cancelling or anything like that, but they're here, and I know they worked when I stopped using them. I'm guessing the battery's a bit rubbish, but I'm going to charge this up, and I might have some AirPods back without spending any money.
That's funny. I believe I have my original AirPods and my original Apple Watch in a drawer in here. But yes,
I have
that's
an original watch somewhere. Yes,
I wouldn't rely on those. No, AirPods 4 are great. Definitely interesting. I'm on the Pro train, so I'm waiting for AirPods Pro 3 to launch inevitably sometime in 2025 with some new kind of features and a probably H3 chipset that still won't be in the AirPods Max. But we discussed the Apple Watch Series 10. The reviews are good. People are liking it. I think, as I said, the various upgrades to the display and case shape and everything gave it enough of a refresh that people can see the difference. And that's important when you're talking upgrades, especially on a device that got no new features. It's still running watchOS 11. It's still doing the same apps and same things. It's just a slightly bigger display and a lighter design, thinner design. So maybe the look and feel of it is changed enough. I'm excited to get my hands on that and check it out. I won't be doing that review, but I will be doing the iPhone 16 Pro Max this year. Really excited for that one. Right. There's reviews on the iPhone 16 Pro. These are a little more mixed. Before I say what I've seen, what do you think about the reviews here on the 16 Pro and Pro Max?
Well, mix is the word for it. I don't think anybody says it's a bad phone. I just think the worst you can say about it is it's the same as last year's phone until Apple Intelligence comes out. That is the big missing spot, which I think is not unfair at all. But there are things to like.
I don't know.
Tetra Prism come to it.
I agree that Apple Intelligence was a big promise, but Apple Intelligence still doesn't really do enough to put so much weight on it. Like, oh, the phone's going to be so much better when you can ask Siri, how much butter to put in a cake. Like, it's fine. Apple Intelligence is going to be fine, and it's going to take a while to really wow people. I think it'll be interesting, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. The actual devices themselves, I think, are quite impressive in their own way. Yes, the external design didn't change. That's what helped the Apple Watch. But for some reason, if the iPhone looks the same as last year's, it will always get worse reviews just because it doesn't look any different. So take it. That said, what did change? Well, we didn't really get into it much last week. We focused mostly on the camera control. I'm still doing it. We focused mostly on the camera control, and we discussed a little bit about what was different. But primarily, the camera system got a huge upgrade. The sensor for the main camera is improved with the new Fusion sensor that is doing a different pipeline than before. So it's going to produce different photos than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The 48 megapixel ultra wide is going to allow for better macro and better overall video anytime you're doing spatial or anything like that. Even though it's still recording at 1080, the improved sensors and pipeline on those should result in better images and video. And on top of that, you got a better image signal processor, which should allow the 5X tetraprism lens to do better as well, even though that one actually didn't physically change at all this year. So camera system, new almost all the way around except for the tetraprism, but that one came to the Pro and the Pro Max this year, so that's a big difference. On top of that, we got the new charging speeds we did mention last week for MagSafe and the USB port, which is a quality of life difference. Battery life is the longest ever. 33 hours is nothing to sneeze at. That is insane for a phone. And finally, stronger front glass, and obviously the A18 Pro processor. Did I miss anything?
The colors.
Of course.
Once again, I focus on the real technical differences between these. I mean, ultramarine versus teal, we could talk for an hour, couldn't we? No. I really like the colors. I mean, it's interesting to me that the regular iPhones get a much wider range of colors than the Pro models ever do. And okay, I like the Pro colors as well, but yeah, what's wrong with a bit of color in them?
Well, of course, also the devices are bigger. I forgot to mention that 4K 120 frames video recording, and then the camera control. So this is not just there have been, just like the Apple Watch, there have been iPhone years where here's the same iPhone as last year with a new processor, and the image signal processor makes the photos better. We might have tweaked the camera, but that's it. And that is not what we got this year. So the people classifying this phone release as boring, it's just odd to me. I get that it's iterative. Iterative is totally valid. That is a valid name I would give this year, but it is definitely not what I would call boring. I don't like that descriptor for this one.
This is the kind of thing that it makes me think, I'm glad I skipped the 14 and went from 13 to 15. Should I skip 16 and go to 17? And so being more conscious of the bigger steps that I'm taking with it. I think that's a reasonable, particularly if you have an iPhone 15 Pro, and so you will be able to use Apple Intelligence, then I think there's a strong argument to hang on till next year for it. But then isn't there always an argument to hang on for next year? Yeah, at some point, you need to jump in. Yeah.
I would definitely say that this is, so there's different hats, okay? So if I am being a rational human being and talking to a person, I'm going to say probably if you have a 14 Pro or a 15 Pro, you don't have to get the 16 Pro, but there are reasons to get it over those devices. Like if you have the money, go for it. If you're on the upgrade program, go for it. But this isn't oh my God, you have to buy this device. But I don't think that's ever really been the case. Every iPhone has been iterative since the 10, and we're never going to get a 10 again. Not as far as I understand it. Just we're reaching the point where these devices can only get so much better every year. Even Austin Mann mentioned in his review, and we can talk about that a little bit, he used to be more, he loved the sensationalist way that iPhones every 2 years would just get this leaps and bound upgrade, and that just doesn't happen anymore. And I would agree with that. There was a few years where we had to get over a few different hurdles, different camera limitations, different device and display limitations, the notch to the dynamic island. But we've kind of hit this equilibrium point where updates are going to be for quality of life versus dramatic changes to the paradigm. And that's fine. Everything has to get to this point. Apple isn't reinventing what a desktop computer is every 2 years. They just released the new iMac. It's thinner, but it's still an iMac. It's still as iMac-y as it was in 2000 whatever. It's fine. It's a display with a computer behind it. How that looks and feels changed because of the technology, but the concept has remained the same. An iPhone is a slab of glass with a bunch of cameras attached to the back. That's where we are.
This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Have you ever had to search for a new doctor? Oh, you moved to a new town, a new state, or your doctor's moved, and now, well, you're asking absolutely everyone for a recommendation. Friends, neighbours, Facebook, strangers passing by, and maybe you get some names. Hopefully you even get good recommendations, but then there's the issue of whether they take your insurance. Now, being in the UK, I had no idea that it was this complicated in America, or that you could find a doctor, book an appointment, and only when you get there find out that they don't take your insurance. I mean, if I had to go through that, I would seriously consider just never getting ill. Or more practically, I would unquestionably use ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every speciality, from mental health to dental care, eye care to skin care. Just, it goes on, so much more. ZocDoc is this free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider. ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider. And thank you to ZocDoc for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. So I hear you. You're saying for drama, leave the iPhone, go to Android. Yeah?
Oh, yes, of course. The Android phones where there's definitely a revolution in unique design choices like camera bars and 15 cameras on the back. Yeah, that's definitely... No, I think if we want to talk about Android, what's interesting here is it's you have to look at the source, you have to look at who's talking, but like the Android commentators will be the first to say how amazing a device is because they got the new Snapdragon processor.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing else would change about it. Or year over year, the device is dramatically different. They've just completely, it's like they hired new designers and completely changed the entire device. So if you like the old product, too bad, the new one's completely different. Or if the new product is bad, the old, there's just no consistency. Whereas iPhone somehow has remained remarkably consistent, but still worth buying because the upgrades make it worth buying. So it's a difference in philosophy for sure. I just find it interesting how people cover these products. They're graded on different curves where Apple can change 5 things about the device, improve the processor in a way that Intel could only dream of, and make the cameras even better even though they're already being used for professional video and photo shoots. Those kinds of gains are unheard of anywhere in the rest of the industry, and yet for Apple, they're boring.
To be fair, though, Snapdragon is a much better name than A18, isn't it? So, there's that. I'm a sucker for a good title, but, yeah, okay. I just feel I don't use the iPhone cameras remotely enough. I don't even take the time to understand how the different things work. I mean, last week we talked to you about this and you were very reassuring that I use it the right way, but I know I could be getting a lot more out of it than I do. I just don't put the time in to try.
Well, did you look at Austin Mann's review?
I saved it into Instapaper to read this weekend, so I'm aware of it. I saw the headline, thinking about the fastest way to take a photo. Well, that was nice, but I haven't read the details.
Yeah, he skipped 15 for whatever reason. I think there was actually like some clash with the schedule. There wasn't really any other particular reason, but he usually does every year. He just didn't do this one. Apple just gives him a phone and he goes to some remote part of the planet to test the photo and video. This time he went to Kenya. It was awesome. He has a YouTube video component to this. Pretty much tells you most of what's in the written review, but you get more photos in the written review. Of like actual examples, like he set up a tripod and used his Apple Watch to take photos of some lion cubs that were checking out the phone, which was pretty cool. But nice. Overall, really, really glowing. I'm going to agree with a lot of what he says here because it's like you're not going to rush out here to buy the new iPhone because of the camera control. It's not a game changer. It's useful. It gets you to the camera faster. It gives you options. He did say that it's fiddly enough that when he's, shaking around in a helicopter that his finger will accidentally slide along the thing and change the zoom level, that kind of stuff. But how many of us run into that in our day-to-day life?
Okay.
But
well, I did actually have helicopter flying lessons, so I could, I just couldn't afford to keep them up. Seriously, but there you go. So overall...
really positive.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say the takeaway. Go look at his review. Go watch the video. Excellent review, as always. But the takeaways were 48 megapixel ultra wide is going to be amazing for anyone, especially those who take big landscape shots or macro. He prefers ultra wide to the main camera because of the intimacy it provides in a lot of settings, and some photographers do as well. That it just makes all the difference. The photo pipeline is huge. He was really, really positive on photographic styles and how those have changed. They're not just filters. I know everyone likes that meme of Apple reinvented filters. No, really, they're not filters. But anyway, the key takeaway from this was between the upgrades to the camera system, the new camera photo pipeline, and photographic styles upgrades, this makes taking photos easier for people who are not professionals. You can just pull out your phone, point and shoot, pick a photographic style, and you have a professional looking, edited looking thing that normally would have taken understanding like professional grade work in Lightroom to achieve, but you're getting it straight out of an iPhone sensor, and that is impressive on its own, and no one else is doing that right now.
Do you know if it's non-destructive? If I change my mind?
This is what's so cool. So yeah, we didn't get to talk about the iPhone cameras last week, so we can dive in a little bit more. So the pipeline has changed enough that Apple has actually made photographic styles reversible.
Excellent. Okay.
Right now, if you do a photographic style on your iPhone 15, it is a permanent application. You cannot reverse it. It becomes the photo. But now with the iPhone 16, it's non-destructive. It's part of the package, so you can go in, edit, and remove the photographic style. You can change to a different photographic style, or you can change the different settings that photographic styles have. So you can know. I actually never relied on those because I was too afraid of regret of shooting with one style and wanting it to be another way. But now, like Austin Mann's example was, just go in and duplicate the photo and choose the black and white photographic style just to see the differences. And like, you can really kind of go crazy with this now. And so I'll explain. Do you know why this isn't just a filter?
Well, I think so. I'm going to say I've just totally ignored filters for the same thing. I figure whatever effect I want, if I ever want effect, I can do in Photoshop or Affinity or something like that. I'd rather take the photo of the thing as it was and deal with it later. So I kind of half tuned out of the photographic styles thing until they showed that example of some sort of field of corn or barley or something, and then they changed the style of it, and it, instead of just putting a colour over the whole thing, it separately adjusted every shade that was in the shot. So it was proper film style grading. And suddenly I was wishing I was paying more attention. So I take it as that. It's like, it's not just a blanket piece of glass over something.
It feels, that's a good word for it. It feels more like you're grading it professionally rather than just slapping an Instagram filter on it. So what's happening, and it's always worked this way, it's just now you can kind of go back and undo it, but right now it was permanent. But what Apple's been doing with these photographic styles is, in the pipeline, it's adding it in to the camera pipeline. So you when you take a photo, it does that some absurd number, 10 billion calculations in the instant you click the shutter to combine multiple exposures and choose the best one and rewrite all the pixels to the right location and ensure the sharpness levels and all that, right? All of that is happening when you click the shutter every time. And what this does is add your photographic style to that process. So the end result is understood. So basically, while it's creating that JPEG, while all that raw data is still available, it is going through layer by layer and applying skin tone, sky, background, texture on top of the photographic style that you've provided it to ensure the most accurate representation, as if you took the photo in that condition to create those effects. It's very intelligent when it comes to skin tone. So everyone's skin tones will be preserved, which is something filters really just can't do. It is very intelligent when it comes to object and people and just everything kind of recognition. And it's not unilaterally dousing it in a color or light scheme or changing the shadows. It's just taking the photo with this information added in. And what's fascinating about iPhone 16 Pro, and I'm assuming this is part of JPEG XL, which is that package of information that photo contains, is able to kind of deconstruct back to the point that the photographic style was applied, remove it, and then reconstruct the image given the leftover information without harming or degrading the photo in any way. It is as if you took it again just now, but without the photographic style. That's what's really impressive about this.
This isn't quite the same thing, but you put it back in my mind. You're saying that Shalin Lowe on Engadget was writing a review of the 16 Pro. I can't remember if it's the Pro or the Max, but one of them. And she was trying to do one of those things where you throw a cushion or something in the air and you take a shot of it in mid-flight, and it was proving impossible. She just couldn't get it to work. She finally found out that the camera is so fast at taking the shot that as it's where you sort of just kind of time pushing the button. The instant you press that button, the shot is taken. So she was having to physically relearn when to do something because the cameras are that quick, and they're doing all of that calculation at the same time. That's a lot faster than my old roll of 16 films, cameras, shots that I remember from a long before you were born again. Anyway, yes, so a good point. Very impressive and very quickly impressive. Will I use photographic styles? Well, I'm definitely going to play with it now if I ever get such an iPhone.
Well, I think it was Nalia Patel from The Verge that said he's been very unhappy with some of Apple's highlight enhancements and sharpening. So he went in and created a photographic style that's basically make the highlights minus 50 automatically, just taking it to the most extreme setting and just making that his default shooting option. And he is able to get a much more true to life shadow representation. At least that was his words. I'm going to have to try it myself. I don't think I'm going to go that dramatic. I actually quite enjoy Apple's default camera output, but I will definitely be checking out photographic styles, if only as a way to shoot, but maybe as a way to edit as well. This could be really cool. It's never going to be as powerful as something like taking a raw photo into Darkroom and applying their intelligent filters, because Darkroom also isn't just a filter system. They're taking into account all of the raw data in your photo. Photographic styles is an in-between. If you use Pro Raw, you cannot use photographic styles because of how Pro Raw works. Pro Raw gets you more data, and you can get a better image graded if you know what you're doing than with photographic styles. Photographic styles is a lossy format. It is a JPEG format. You're going to use it when you're just quick firing from the hip kind of stuff. But if you really want control, you're still going to default to Pro Raw. You can't do both at the same time either.
That's interesting, though. It's like Apple isn't taking anything away. It's giving you options once you know those options are there and what they do.
That's why I agree with Austin Mann on this. This iPhone, in particular, this camera system, as powerful as it is, as amazing as it is for pros, it's the best it's ever been for casual shooters as well.
That's an amazingly difficult mix to pull off, isn't it? And yet, iPhone does it. I'm trying to remember. I read a quote that was ascribed to somebody from Apple, so can't remember where the quote was, can't remember who was claimed to say it, don't know that they really did. But the quote, and also can't remember the words, so, look at the quality of information you're getting here. But the gist of the quote was that Apple's opinion about photography is that photographs are trying to capture what's going on now. It's not trying to, I think it was faithful reproduction of what's in front of you is the key aim of all of it, which doesn't quite fit with then adding photographic styles, but having that option of getting it what it is, not, artificially replacing the moon or something, is Apple's aim. And I kind of liked it. There was a purity to the honouring of why cameras have been what they have been forever. So I like that Apple has, for all that it does, I mean, it's a technology firm, but the cameras, this sounds like they really care about the history of photography, and we know with watches that they really do, because the whole reason we have complications is that's what they used to be called on watches in horology. So there's art in Apple, I think. So good on them in general. You're making me think I should get an iPhone 16. I may have also just revealed what happened there, but no.
I wish I had it in front of me, but I believe maybe it was The Verge, but there was a statement about Apple photography, photographic styles, artificial intelligence, all of that stuff. And it highlighted what I've been saying this whole time. Apple's push for consistency and realism, capturing what is in front of you, what is a photograph, is so important. I believe this was in The Verge as well. But the idea is, like, go read the iPhone review and go read the Pixel 9 Pro review on The Verge, and you can see where they've landed. It was two different reviewers, to be fair, but Pixel 9 Pro with its photo generative nonsense made The Verge question, what is a photo? And then Apple comes out with their iPhone, and they were able to answer it. Funny enough, so
nice. Okay.
It's an interesting binary. So you look at their answer for what a photo is in iPhone, because in Pixel 9 Pro they were questioning what is a photo, because beginning to end, this new like what Google is doing changes the definition of a photo, and then Apple comes out with their pipeline, and they're like, no, actually, this is what a photo is, not that AI garbage. And they kind of just landed on this idea that photography, as it has existed as a medium for, a very long time now. Gosh, again, I'm not going to try to remember history at the moment, going back to daguerreotypes or something. But yeah, photos have been around for a while. We really like them. They capture what's in front of us for a memory, for a moment, for historical purposes, news, whatever. But that is what it is. It captures what is in front of us. And Apple has done an exceptional job producing a camera, even with all of its algorithms, even with all of its machine learning, even AI, it still preserves what is in front of us, down to the detail, the color, and the texture of someone's sweater. Whereas Android's priorities have shifted away from reality to masking what is real, to creating an ideal world that no longer exists, so that when you go back and look at it, it's no longer there. Sorry, I've been rereading 1984, so my brain just keeps going to Ministry of Truth and changing the past to reflect what Big Brother said, so that way it's accurate with what actually happened. And my goodness, doesn't it feel kind of like that? Like, those balloons were in the sky when we were in the field. Do you not remember that? Look at this photo that I took that I altered with AI, because that's actually what happened. Look how interesting I am now, because I have balloons in my photo that weren't actually there.
Please don't let us go down this line, but yes, you put in mind of all the politicians at the moment that are saying, I didn't say that, and then I did say that. No, I didn't. And also, let us know, on a happier note, you're reading 1984, I'm reading Knight Rider. I think there's a spread here. We should swap at some point. I'm very concerned
Orwell
about
was
Kit.
such an excellent writer, wasn't he?
Yes. It's a long time since I read that, but I should go back to it.
It's always good to just revisit it, because I hadn't read it in many years. I might read Animal Farm next just for fun. That one's a little bit more silly, but I enjoy it too.
I don't think I've read that one, but
oh yeah, that one's fun. You might actually enjoy Animal Farm. Like I said, it takes on much less of the grayscale background of dreariness, but it's once you realize what's happening, it's like oh no, this is very dark, just in a different way.
You do know that George Orwell worked at the BBC, and a lot of the things in 84, listen to me, the hip kid, 1984, were, shall we say, not uninspired by the hallowed halls of Broadcasting House.
I'm sure. I yes, no, I believe it. I hope that maybe it isn't as dreary as the
it may have changed a little bit.
Just a little. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, Anyway, yes, the way he talked about speaking into some of those machines, I can see the relation to the BBC now. But in any case, moving on from 1984, there was an Apple ad, there we go. We're back to Apple.
Well done. See how you did that? Yes. 1984 won't be like 1984. Yes. Uh-huh. Remember it well.
So, Speaking of Macs, you reviewed macOS Seqoia, right?
Yes, I did. And I found it really hard. Because there are new bits in it, and I like it. And within about an hour, I used the beta, and I know you shouldn't use betas too early, but I was writing about it. So I put the beta on one machine, and I kept my MacBook Pro on last year's one. And that meant I was constantly comparing the two. And that constant comparing became actually slight constant annoyance, because there's just enough difference in the new one that, every year, the old one suddenly seems so old and ancient. So I would go back, and I came within 1 pixel of upgrading both machines to it and risking everything. And now they're all out officially. I'm very tempted, but I'm hanging on for another week to see if there are any big problems. But yeah, I like Seqoia without really being able to pin down why. I mean, yes, iPhone mirroring, ridiculously useful. I truly can't explain why. But most days I will fire that up rather than get my iPhone.
Are you writing your journal on your Mac now using iPhone mirroring?
Do you know, I never even thought of that once. That's a very good point. Yes, will be the answer. Okay. Truly, I hadn't thought of that.
I really wish that app would just launch literally anywhere else. Put it in my Vision Pro. I don't care. Just put it somewhere else. I like it on my phone, but anyway, iPadOS 18 I reviewed. This was interesting. So you don't really have anything, no revelations for macOS Seqoia. It's another macOS. The iPhone mirroring is really cool.
I'm having permissions problems, and I realised today that it might be because I'm on 2 different macOSs, so it's probably not Apple's fault. But the related thing of do you want to grant permission for a month? I'm finding that already annoying. That's managed to come up a couple of times. So the month goes by very quickly, and it's like, yes, right. That's why I installed it, kind of thing. This isn't Vista, is it? But generally speaking, I like Seqoia, and I can't justify it. But since it's free, do you have to justify it? No, it's good. It's there. Yes.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when I finish a review and I don't have to put a price section. It's like, and go download it. There you go.
Yes. I'd forgotten that. I gave it a reasonably low rating because more so than I think maybe with the phone because of writing tools and things. macOS Seqoia is going to be different when Apple Intelligence is here, and without it, it did feel a little bit hollow.
There's almost nothing there. The phone mirroring and screen tiling, I believe, were the only exclusive features.
That's true. Yes, there's also the Mac wallpaper and screensaver. I mean, I know I talk about colours a lot, but I do actually like the screensaver for it. It's just quite absorbing. Seeing Susan Care's icons blown up to giant size and the odd little text appearing where you don't expect it. It's really well done. And most of the time, you kind of use your Mac for work, but every now and again, sitting there with a cup of tea, and this comes in, it's nice. So not a reason to buy a Mac and upgrade, but since, it's there. So, I feel I'm sounding more and more defensive here, but I just like it. So.
Did you see my iPad review?
Actually, my Instapaper pile? It's growing. I like Sunday afternoons. I try to create like a magazine of longer, interesting articles to just read with my feet up kind of thing. And you made it into the stack for this weekend.
I don't know what it is. I don't do this on purpose, but when I write these kinds of reviews, they just kind of become 3,000 words without even thinking about it. It's just, I guess I'm passionate about it, so I have a lot to say, even though to note at the top, there's two exclusive features to iPadOS 18 this year. The Smart Script handwriting recognition.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and the toolbar.
Well, okay, so I guess there's 3.
2.5.
Toolbar,
okay.
Yeah, the toolbar, it's the new top bar, I believe they call it, lowercase.
Top bar, sorry, yes.
Give it tab bar, that's it.
Okay.
Tab bar. It's not even an uppercase name. But yes, it gained a tab bar. It gained a calculator with math notes, which I counted as a unique iPad feature because you can write the math notes unlike you can on other platforms. So I gave that to them. So that's technically 3 features: calculator with math notes, handwriting with Smart Script, and the tab bar. Fine. Good features all around. Good evolution of the operating system. But the title says it all. Apple made iPad better for everyone but pros. Now, pros are included in everyone, so it's improved for me as well. I enjoy the new tab bar. Handwriting with Smart Script is really cool. I can't wait for the day Apple Journal comes to iPad and I can do handwritten entries. Hint, hint, Apple. Come on, let's do it. I would love to do handwritten entries. That'd be awesome. And then have like a text transcript next to it. Oh, come on. Let's go. But then everything else is just iOS. Customizable control center, dark icons on the home screen. If there's anything revelatory about this, it's that all of the iOS 18 things came to the iPad at the same time. So we didn't have to wait a year for customizable control center, whereas these last few years we would have. It took a year for us to get the home screen. It took us a year to get the new lock screen. But this year, no, we got everything alongside iPhone, and I'll give them that. That was a good update. So I was less harsh. 4 stars. Yeah,
It's true. By the way, the Mac review is 3,000 words. It takes that long to cover all of these things, even when there's not a lot to say. I really like iPadOS 18 in the same way I like iOS 18. I find the whole kind of look and feel of the iPad is nice. I haven't done much of the app customization the way I have actually done on the iPhone for it, so I'm not really aware of that. But Control Center is great. You got to remind me because I keep getting the name wrong. The top bar, the tab bar,
tab bar.
Tab bar, right? In certain apps, that's really good. In others, it's completely pointless. But I like the concept of it. I have a concept of a plan of how to use the top bar.
Oh goodness,
yeah.
Reference. But I think the thing I wanted to note here the most is the Pro stuff, because this was kind of a spiritual successor to my 13-inch iPad Pro review. They're well read in tandem, actually, if you haven't read that yet. But the iPad Pro review was written just before WWDC. I did that on purpose to ensure it would not be spoiled by Apple's announcements, because we were kind of hopeful that M4 would make an impact. It did not. There was no new workflows for pros, no new pro apps, no new pro app updates. If anything, this entire beta cycle between 18 and 18.1, there's new bugs specifically for pros.
There you go. You see, something to write
right.
about,
They're thinking of us. They're thinking of us. So if you're connected to an external monitor, Stage Manager has fallen apart. Frankly, I still use it every day. I fight through it. It's not constant, but it is definitely annoying when it happens. But I can no longer swipe between stages reliably without stealing a window from my monitor.
Really?
So if I have my drafts and my Safari open on my monitor on my studio display, and I go to the iPad and swipe from Slack to Mastodon to Trello, at some point, if I keep swiping, it's going to grab the Safari and drafts from my monitor and treat it as an active window on the iPad and move that stage over. That is very broken. It should not behave that way. The stages should be separate from the iPad and the monitor, but they are no longer separate for some reason in the latest updates.
Well, there is an answer to that. Don't bother with Stage Manager.
You can't on an iPad.
Wait, on an iPad when it's plugged into an external display.
You have to have Stage
I learned that
Manager
from you, yes. This isn't why I don't plug my iPad into an external display, but it helps. Yeah.
If I have Safari open full screen or any size, and I bring drafts in, it dramatically changes my Safari layout, and I have to readjust it every time. Then there's also that, and it seems to be specific to Safari. I've tried this with other apps, and it's less dramatic, but for some reason, bringing Windows into where Safari is, Safari explodes. Then there's also the cursor issue, which has been an issue for a while. I can't pinpoint when it started, but let's say I'm typing in drafts on my monitor, and then I go to answer someone on Slack. I click in the cursor field, start typing. I'm still typing in drafts. I click in Slack.
I've done that by accident, not realized which app I'm still in.
No, it forces it. You can see the animation. It jumps. And for some reason, because it's selecting a different active window, all of Stage Manager does this kind of jiggle. And so you can either do one of two things. For me, if I'm frustrated, I will just keep clicking until it stays, because I'm like, you will listen to me.
Okay.
Or you can do the rational thing, and what actually fixes it every time is you just click the icon of the app you want to type in on either the home screen or in the bar.
Right. That does sound
the dock.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds less stressful.
But I will fight it sometimes and just be like, no, you will stay here. I'm going to keep clicking until you stay where I want you to anyway. just out of frustration. But that has been there for so long now; it's just part of the operating system. I put it in the review of just kind of taking a jab of like these bugs between the window switching and this cursor. Either I'm the only one with this issue, or it is intentional at this point, because I do not understand how Stage Manager can be this broken through the entire beta cycle and it not be addressed at all. Hopefully it'll be fixed very soon. But again, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm still working from iPad every day, but still, it's just like, come on.
I shouldn't say this, but I have the developer betas, of course, because I'm writing about it. I think once in this cycle, I filed a report over something. I can't remember what it was. Did you pester them with radars, as I think they called them, or just trust that they would get it right?
Radar is the old name. Now they're called feedbacks, and I've submitted feedbacks.
Right.
That's
really boring. Feedback instead of radar. A18 instead of Snapdragon. What's the matter with these? USB-C instead of Lightning. All the good names are gone.
Usually when I file these things, it's kind of pointless because they're just dismissed because it's redundant. There's already an existing whatever for this problem.
Right.
Fine. Because I know I'm not the only person on the planet with these issues. So fine. But it's just one of those things of, okay, but why is it like this in a shipping product? And everyone's going to say, well, you use it during a beta. It was like this pre-beta, through the beta, and now in release. I promise you, it's just there. I don't know why it's there, but it is there.
Are you in beta? Should you be updated? Me. Yes, because that would explain a few things. Yes, okay.
And one last thing before we close up. I updated my whole home to all the new operating systems immediately. Because I had everything on beta, but the one thing you cannot run betas without an Appleseed program, which I've never been invited to, is the HomePod, especially the older HomePods. Oh. So my office has the original HomePods. I can never run a beta on those without being in the Appleseed program. Mm-hmm. I updated them to iOS 18, or tvOS 18, I guess. Audio OS, whatever they are.
Yes, I get really confused by that, but
it is tvOS. Yeah. They just don't even call it that. They call it HomePod operating system, which is really silly. But anyway, update it to version 18, and now while I'm listening to music, the left speaker makes a pop, and then suddenly it's just my right speaker playing for about 5 minutes, and then it just joins back, and it's been doing that.
I haven't had the popping, but I've had the suddenly only one works. Months ago now, unfortunately, I cleared out my office to fix a problem, and I haven't put everything back in, including the HomePods. But I was meaning to just try repairing, doing all of them to see what would fix this really irritating.
This has happened before. It's likely to do with the fact that it's still running an ancient chipset. They're going to age out eventually. I'm counting down the days. It's going to break. I'm going to have to go buy new HomePods. It's fine. The fact that they have lasted this long, I've got my money's worth. I've literally used them every single day for years now at medium to high volume. I have worn them out. So I'm not going to be upset when I have to replace them. I'm just going to keep using them until they stop working. I've had this bug before. It's going to get fixed, so I'm not going to rip them out of the wall just yet. But it's just like another silly thing to have to deal with.
It just works, apparently. That's the thing.
It does. I mean, none of this is to just really disparage Apple. I let the fanboy out for a second. Honestly speaking, it's still nothing compared to what I've dealt with Sonos before. So let's just not even get started on that. There's a reason why, as weird and finicky as HomePods can be, I abandoned Sonos a few years ago now. And looking at Sonos today, I'm just like, man, I dodged a bullet there. Thank goodness.
Wow.
Because they're having a rough time over there.
Yeah, you've said, and I've never even tried them, so I don't know if I'm missing out in any way, but it doesn't sound like I am. So thank you very much. That's good.
Yeah, it goes back to our earlier discussion about like Android updates and iPhone boring, Android amazing, whatever reviewers do. Because of this, I like turning the reality distortion field inside out. It's no longer about making Apple better. It's about grading Apple on a curve. So that's how I use reality distortion field today. Is everyone's treating Apple as if they need to be perfect. Anything less than perfect gets them a bad score. Whereas if Google shows up wearing clothes and their shoes are tied, they get an A+. Right. So it's just one of those kinds of situations. So the reality distortion field, I think, is inverted. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the original use of that was basically to say Apple was always viewed as perfect because they were Apple, and if it was an Apple branded object, it would automatically be seen as perfect because anyway.
It was more specific than that. It was Steve Jobs could convince you of anything. And then you left the room and suddenly, no, hang on, kind of feeling. So yes.
Now I can poke holes into it, but with him here, I couldn't even see the holes. Yeah.
Yes.
But no, that's what's interesting here. As awkward as things can get with some of these updates, like Stage Manager being silly, or like losing a cursor, or Windows switching being kind of broken, or HomePod's dropping out randomly because of a software update, it is still a walk in a park compared to what I have dealt with other software, with other companies and other devices that are supposed to just work. So let me be clear. As we complain because we're passionate, we complain because we want these things to work well. But I have tried the other things, and it would be you get so used to disappointment that it stops being an issue.
Good point. Yes. I think I said this, sorry, very briefly, I know we're running out of time, but I used an Android phone recently to do something for somebody, and I just found it so confusing. And I put it down to, it's a different system, but actually the more I've looked into it since, it's just crazy.
The opinions they have about their operating system is very different from Apple, so of course it would be difficult for anyone who hasn't gotten used to Android to just use it. But I agree with you from the other end of the spectrum of, I think Android is just poorly thought out. It's not well, it's good that you can configure it to be better, because you can literally do anything to Android to make it run differently, but better or worse. But I do think there is something to that Android is just poorly conceptualized compared to iOS. iPhone is definitely the designer's platform, made by designers for designers, in that way. Android represents a little bit more chaos. So on that note, I think that's a show. We can close up here. My goodness, we've still only barely penetrated the event and what's happened in it. But next time we talk, we're going to have new goodies to talk about.
Will we? Because we don't know yet whether I bought anything.
Well, I will, of course. I'm excited to... I'm excited to write the review for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. If anyone has any questions, please send them my way. You can email me. If it's something I haven't thought of, great. I'll include it in the review. I'm really excited to try out the new camera systems. I still haven't figured out what I want to do yet, because this is the weekend I'm going to be able to do it. I need to conceptualize this weekend, write it next week, and have something of a completed platform by the week after. So this is the weekend to do the stuff. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do. 2 years ago, I went to Dollywood and did photos around the park. And that's a amusement park in Tennessee. Yes. Last year, I went on a walking trail and out in town, just kind of stuff like that, kind of a little bit more generalized. I took pictures of a little iMac G3 robot toy, which was cute. Still haven't figured out this year. I'm thinking about it. But if anyone has any great suggestions for what to discuss, if you have any questions, throw them my way. But I feel like this is going to be a fun one this year. Camera controls are going to be great.
I have one thing to say, by the way. Sorry, you're about to ask me where can people find me, should they wish to, and it's usually william@appleside.com. But by absolute weird chance, this coming Monday, as we record this, as this goes out, I am a guest on both the Omni Show and Mac Power Users. I can only assume they were both let down at the last minute, but I'm on both of those. And I am not, and as yet have never been, on HomeKit Insider, Monday's Apple Insider podcast. I'm not taking it personally, but, you know.
Wow, I am jealous of Mac Power Users. See, I would never be invited there because, like, my Mac's on a bookshelf. So they would, the only reason why they would invite me is to ridicule me. I would gladly go on the show to be ridiculed, though.
I was on it for an hour and a half, and I talked about nothing except you and your Mac and what you did to it.
Oh, goodness. I'm excited for that. That'll be a good listen. That is already in my queue because I listen to Mac Power users regularly.
Yeah, so do I. It's a very good show. Yeah.
But yes, as William said, you can find us via email. That's at the top of any article we've written. Click our name. You can shoot us an email, question, comment, whatever. I am on Mastodon. William has his YouTube show. How many keys
58
is it?
keys. 58 keys. How can you not remember a number that's steeped in Apple history? Let's just leave it as a mystery.
Of
like
course.
that.
Yes, no, 58 keys. It was a joke. Calm down, William. But that
I'm
is
being
the show
slow. I'm sorry. Yes, right.
No. Anyway, that's the show this week, everyone. Want to thank our sponsors, ZocDoc. Again, please reach out with any comments or let William know how much you want him to buy some new AirPods, and we'll talk next week. Oh, and I do this every time, guys. St. Jude. It is still September. Child Cancer Awareness Month. See, I put it in the right order that time. Donate. It's just a good cause. The guys over at Relay FM, they do it every year. Just go give them a little bit of money, even if it's $5, it helps. But with that, I'll say talk next week.